You might be looking at me and you're like, this guy's a white guy. What does he know? Well, I know that carrots grow in the dirt, asshole. I want to talk about Tenacity. Crazy opener. I've got no idea what I'm saying. I just spouted some bullshit, and I thought it'd make funny intro, so we kept it. I bet you didn't even see the cut, because I'm goated. I'm goated. We watched that 8 times, so you find the cut. But Tenacity, right? I think it's an easy fix, right? It's a system that you design only for tanks, and I don't say that out of privilege. I say that out of the sheer fact that if you're playing DPS and you get stunned 3 or 4 or 5 times, you don't need a tenacity system. You're dead. Even with the tenacity system that I'm about to pitch, which starts at 1 CC, you're dead. You're playing DPS, you have 250, I think 375 health max. I think that's Wolverine. Mr. Fantastic might have a little more, a little less. I'm not too sure. But 375 for Wolverine, I'm pretty certain you're still dead. And if you're not, your supports are doing overtime, pocketing you. And they deserve some proper respect. But a system for tanks, designed for tanks. I think that's important because they tried to make it for everybody. They tried to make the last system so that way, if a support gets stunned, they'll get tenacity. And it ended up being so it procced on them more often than it procced on anybody else. And that's obviously bad because the tanks are the ones getting the stun the most, you know? So, what do? My proposition is simple. Your first CC, nothing happens. Your first CC, nothing happens. When that CC ends, you get 1 stack of tenacity. Tenacity stacks up to 9. You could do 10 with this system, but I think 9 would be the most fair, and I'll explain why. 9 would be the most fair. Each stack gives you a 10% resistance to CC. How this resistance would interact with all different kinds of CC would depend on the CC. For things like slowdowns and stuns, it would be 10% of the slow. So if it's a 100% slowdown, so that doesn't exist, it's just to make the numbers easier. Because I didn't have these numbers prepped. I don't script these things. I want them to be natural. But 100% slowdown, just for shit's sakes. Actually, 50% slowdown. Close to Invisible Woman's ult. If you have 1 stack of tenacity, then when you walk into it, instead of getting slowed down by 50%, you only slow down by 45%. 10% less on the slow. Stun. Let's say you're stunned for 10 seconds. Now you're only stunned for 9 because it's 10% less of that 10 seconds. Things like that. It would operate differently on different ones. For example, displacement abilities. If you're knocked back 10 meters, now you only knock back 9 meters because it's 10% less of the meters you're knocked back for, etc., etc. Some caveats to every time you get hit with a CC, after the CC ends, that's very important, after the CC ends, and the whole ability as a whole, anybody who is affected by it gets 1 stack of CC, any tanks who were affected by it, which means if you had 2, 1, you had 10%, 2, 20%, 3, 30%, and so on and so forth, up to 90%. And I say 90% because I don't want anyone to be fully CC immune in this game. I think that's what made Groot so phenomenally good. Instead of just boosting his numbers or giving him something new in this game, they just patched out a problem that happened to all tanks. They said, no more for you, Groot. And that's not very good. Not very good for the game because the other tanks still struggle with it. I think no tank in the game should be fully CC immune outside of certain abilities like Diamond Form or Things Rampage when he's running after you. You know. But yeah, 90%, so that way your ultimates could still get canceled, but it means you're not fully immune. You can still get canceled, things can still happen to you. That's good for the game. It still encourages you to not just bait out a bunch of CC so you can jump in and then there's no CC left. You still have to actually know what CC they have, what CC you have, what CC they still have before you just jump in and do things, because if you're 100% immune, you wouldn't have to. After 5 seconds, all stacks would disappear. All stacks gone. Again, incentivizing, you have 90% resistance. There, Bucky Hook is going to move you like 2 meters. He's incentivized not to hit you with it. And then when the tenacity goes away, you have it left. In this instance, control abilities, or abilities that require an animation, like an Emma Grab, Rogue Grab, Wolverine Leap, where he grabs you, and Elsa Ult. I couldn't remember her name. I was going to call her Emma. That's on me. That's on me. But Elsa Ult. For those, you wouldn't get any resistance to them because they're control abilities and they require a cooldown. They work on a cooldown. They don't really work the same way. Now, how would that work? It grabs you. It does the same thing it normally does. And then when it ends, it gives you a stack. You can't be any more resistant to those than normal, but it does give you a stack. So let's say you're at 5 stacks, right? And then Emma grabs you. She grabs you. And after you get slammed and you stand back up again, now you have 6 stacks. So you have 6 stacks. Emma kicks you. You have 60% resistance to that knockback from her kick, but not to the grab because the grab requires an animation. Wolverine's requires you to touch the ground. Elsa requires an animation and is control, things like that. Dino, you can't be really resistant to that because there is no metric of it moves you this many feet. And I think Bucky's hook would probably land in the same camp because it requires you to come to him and no other metrics there. But things that don't have a solid metric of pushes you blank meters or blinds you for blank seconds, things like that. Smaller CCs, like blind, may be counted. I don't know. I don't think it'd be worth it if they were. Downsides to this, obviously. Really easy to farm tenacity because of how many CCs are in the game. Maybe you just reduce, you double, so you can stack it up to 19 is what it would be, and then it's 5% increase. Instead of 5%. Instead of 10% increase, so it's harder to farm it. The other one is it just kind of makes you CC immune after a bit. There was one really glaring one, but I can't remember right now. Give me 1 second. I can't remember. Deadass. I took a nap. I couldn't remember. I took a nap. I got up. I came over here. I stuck for another 10-ish minutes. I can't remember what that one big fatal flaw to this thing was, other than maybe being able to farm it super easy. But I know there are flaws. I know this isn't a perfect solution. And I know that's good enough for me. But let me know what you think, how you would fix this. What do you think of my solution? And that's pretty much it. Dingle, dingle, doodle, doodle, doo.